Okay. Hi, I'm Scarlett Williams, and this is Aaron. I'm going to let Aaron introduce himself and the population that he works with.
I'm Aaron Gleaves. I am a therapist working with Calm Counseling and Consulting in Blacksburg, Virginia. Um, I work primarily with young adults on down to about middle school age. Um, a lot of LGBTQIA plus identifying folks and people with a history of experiencing traumatic events. Yeah.
Mhm. And then you trained in Target to Zero in May. Can you chat a little bit about what you think and what you're able to do?
So what I'm doing is, along with my traditional talk therapy practice, it's just been kind of an arrow in my quiver, and for my clients as well. As I've started to introduce it, then it's something that they become familiar with, and they can say, "Hey, maybe this is something that Target to Zero would be appropriate." Um, something that could help. Um, but yeah, I've been really excited about it. I've got a pretty long history in one capacity or another of working with traumatized people in Southwest Virginia. And, you know, Target to Zero allows me to work with trauma with a little bit more confidence, with the feeling that um, I have this tool that allows me to do what I call more humane trauma work, right? Like that I know that although the trauma work is always difficult, but and painful for the client, I think. But in this case, I feel like my clients don't have to abreact. They don't have to become as triggered as they might with other methods, right? That my clients can experience pretty quick results. I mean, can achieve relief, yeah, very quickly.
How long is it taking you to get through a trauma target with somebody?
I need just a few minutes. It's like I say, the way that I'm using it is within my normally scheduled
Yeah,
or long session. So,
yeah.
and my clients come to me and they know me and they want to, talk with me as we usually would. So, the fact that it's so quick, we don't have to try to like schedule another special session to talk about this and put it off. And, like all the things that come with that, we can just say, hey, let's take 15 minutes in the middle of the session and hit that target that you were talking about last week, or this thing that's coming up right now, and when we're half an hour into our session, and say, hey, that could be a target. What do you think? And we can just go from that right back into our regularly scheduled programming, right? So,
I love it.
yeah,
So when you're using it, do you are are clients abreacting or disassociating when you're using it?
not at all. Not so. I haven't seen it. I mean, like you said, I've been doing this since May, and as far as I can tell, no abreaction from anyone.
And then with a lot of trauma therapies, right? Like EMDR, prolonged exposure therapy, cognitive processing therapy, there was a lot of crying, right? You use a lot of tissues. Are you seeing that? Are you seeing a lot of crying or like not
I
really
don't
that
think so.
much?
I don't think so. It's just
Yeah.
it's different than that, and you get to see these light bulb moments, where clients start to have a cognitive change,
Yeah.
or their attitudes about what's happened to them has changed.
Yeah.
That's witnessing some healing happening firsthand in a very very quick way, and this is not it's not my intention to make light of trauma. I have an intense reverence for the work that we do and the people that we serve, right? And I have some understanding that like I say, historically, like to be trauma informed for me meant to be very careful to the point that maybe it was even tiptoey or made it, you know, more frightening for the client to experience. And with this, we can kind of go in and say for both of us, after they experience it, I have my clients intuitively telling me, they're like, hey, this is something that I could use just to kind of cope. This is something that I could use myself just to sort of regulate in,
Yeah.
in a given moment. It doesn't have to be a target or anything. And you know, I see no reason they shouldn't do that.
Yeah, I agree. I think it needs to be, right? Like it's a tool that therapists can train in, but also individuals can use as a preventative.
You know, and this is not something that historically as therapists we've been trained to really sign off on. It's like, hey, maybe you don't do coping skills, sure, but the idea that you're going to do some kind of processing like this on your own, and I still want them to come see me and do target zero, do traditional talk therapy and check in. That doesn't mean that this can't be a powerful thing to help them regulate if they feel triggered on their own, and that's cool. That's different than uh, resourcing in some other way, right? Like,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I developed it, so I think it's super cool, of course.
yeah, yeah, right. I mean, just
Right, right, because like trauma is terrible, right? Like
that's rough.
my ACE score is so high that I cheat when I feel that, right? It's like, whoa, I did not really experience that as a kid, right? And
Mm,
so with trauma or adverse events, there comes a lot of negative symptoms, right? And as therapists, we're not all going to see all of those for an individual, right? But giving an individual a treatment that they can utilize very quickly and
yeah,
also resourcing it as a way to help themselves as a preventative, like that's game changing.
yeah. And like I said, I love to let people work intuitively. I love to I'm a very person centered, very humanistic therapist. So I think that the medicine that people come up with for themselves is the best thing. And I don't introduce that. I don't say, hey, you can do target zero at home on your own, whatever. People are like, when I'm going through the protocol and I say, what's something that you could do should this happen in the future? And they're like, I can do this very thing that we just did on my own, right? And I'm like, why not? Um, so I just think it's cool that people are um, experiencing it in that way. That they're like, rather than having this experience of re-traumatizing or something like that, they're like, oh, okay, yeah, this feels good. That feels like a relief to me.
Isn't that so cool, right? That you're introducing a tool and a technique that you're able to use therapeutically, and then the person likes it so much, they're like, can I do this at home?
Right? Yeah. I mean,
And
just
that's kind of cool.
that's, that's another part of the way that I view therapy with a background training in motivational interviewing, right? Is that to me, I think one of the most important things about if we frame anything like recovery, right? We recover from trauma or recover from substance use disorder or whatever, um, is self-efficacy, is that I believe that I can feel better. I believe that I can do something. So if someone has a tool that helps them and gives them a relief and makes them feel confident, and I feel confident as their therapist to come in and say, "Hey, I think this thing will help you." That's huge.
Yeah, it is huge. When you've been using it and then you've been following up with people, what have you noticed different? Like for people's outcomes, you with so think of it this way. When you used to do target to zero, sorry, when you used to do traditional talk therapy, okay, and what you would see with people over time that you were working with, is there anything different you're seeing in people's outcomes, including target to zero in your toolbox?
It just feels like it moves people forward quicker. I mean, and I think that's a drawback or a criticism of humanistic or kind of therapeutic methods, right? Is like it's slow, um, and I'll kind of die on that hill that I really want my clients to like I said, learn things in their own way in their own time and heal, and also they are suffering. If people have experienced traumatic events, then the symptoms associated with are no joke, right? Like this stuff is painful. So having this tool that enables me to still be that slow person-centered therapist that lets people work at their own pace and also see the trajectory of these cases change, right, as a result of them engaging in this treatment where um, they can skip forward a couple chapters in this book, right? They can go and um, you just see attitudes start to shift. You know, like I talk about this light bulb moment we're doing target to zero, and then the way that that informs their treatment moving forward in their life, right?
I'm so tickled. That, right? Just, that's so wonderful to hear you say that.
Yeah, it's a game changer. You know, it's it's so different that I think that it made me skeptical. You know, I want a magic bullet. I want.
I know, Aaron, it's so fast, right? And it's like nobody believes me when I tell them that it's this super fast, but it is, it's very fast.
And that's that's a very big deal because the way that I was handling this kind of thing historically was, you know, I'm working with people with trauma and maybe we work on some coping skills and we develop rapport, you know, and then I was referring out, saying, hey, maybe some EMDR would be the right thing. And now, you know, a lot of times people wouldn't take the referral. They wouldn't follow up. They say, you know, I don't know. I know you, man. I want to work with
Right.
you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I want a two therapists. And that can make somebody feel like something's really wrong with them to be like, hey, you also need me and the specialist in this
Yeah,
other.
yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I mean? We
yeah,
don't want to send the message that somebody like.
yeah.
So to have the training, and there's nothing wrong with that either. You know, that's something I plan to do with people in my practice. Still, it's like maybe they're doing the traditional talk therapy piece, and they can come to me for target to zero. But again, it's different than traditional EMDR. You know, in that it's fast and
It's
people
fast.
don't react. So
People aren't abreacting.
this is what I see so far.
That is so cool. Thanks for sharing and thank you for your time.
Yeah, nice to talk with you. Absolutely.